Good morning. This is Bill Hawkins with AARP. Thank you for joining us on Fraud Watch Friday. Today, we're going to talk about Facebook piracy. Recently, there was a data breach where 533 million people had some part of their information breached. What do you do? How do you protect yourself? How can you recognize this? And what can you do to make sure it doesn't happen? Today, we're going to be joined by Mark Federhoff. He is with the AARP Fraud Watch Helpline. Mark, let's just start. Tell us about this data breach.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Bill. I would say that it's really just critical that people know this data breach was discovered this April by Business Insider magazine, and essentially what happened was in 2019 there was information that was scraped off of Facebook by different types of scammers who are looking for personal and private information. The really important thing to know about this information that's been shared is that it was only really public data that was shared. No private data was being shared as a part of this data breach. So when we're talking about private data, I'm talking about your passwords, any financial information, and information that you only share with friends on Facebook was not shared. The information that was shared, though, was things like your name and things that people might search for when they're looking for you on Facebook. So other things that might be included would include like the country you're in, your gender, your age range, your username, and your profile photo and your cover photo, and networks that you might be in might have been some of the things that were shared and might have been exposed as part of this breach.
So what does this mean for the average Facebook user like myself?
Yeah, for the average Facebook user, I mean, a lot of this information is public information anyways that can be done with a basic search. I think the most important thing to know is that in 2019, phone numbers and email addresses were commonly used by Facebook as a username and a user ID. And so it's going to be much more common that you might receive phishing attempts through your email and through your phone number. And you might say, I get a ton of these anyways. Well, and really this data breach might be contributing to some of an escalation in the amount of phishing attempts that you're getting, whether it be, through your email address or on the phone.
Okay. So what should the average person like myself or the folks who are watching today, what should we do to protect ourselves? How do we recognize if there's something that's a danger?
Yeah, I think, first off, through the phone, lots of phishing attempts are coming via text message. If you don't know who's text messaging you, it's not a good idea to respond. Also, if you're receiving different types of text messages that have links in them and you don't know who they're from, don't click on those links. That's critically important. The same thing goes with emails. Same advice. If you're receiving emails and there's downloads or there's links to click, avoid clicking on those type of things. Always screen your phone calls as well. Critically important steps just to avoid any types of phishing that might be occurring as part of this data breach or other types of data breach where basic contact information has been given out.
Is there some way to protect yourself with settings on your Facebook?
Most definitely. I highly recommend that people take a minute and look at their privacy settings. And so if you go in the upper right-hand corner of your Facebook page and look at privacy, you want to do a privacy checkup. And what Facebook has is really nice availability of showing you what types of things that people who you know and who you don't know can view on your Facebook page. And so by going through that privacy checkup, you know what people can see when they visit your page who don't know you, and what people can see who do know you. And so locking down those privacy settings is critically important. And I highly recommend folks take that step and do the privacy checkup through Facebook, just to make sure only your friends are the ones who can see your other friends and other contact information that you have on your Facebook page.
Great. Well, I'll ask you a couple more questions now. I just put the number for the AARP Fraud Watch helpline, and we'll talk more about that later. What are some current scams that are going on that you're hearing about on the helpline?
Yeah, there are a lot of scams that are being generated through Facebook that we hear about on the helpline. The most prevalent one right now that we're really hearing about are government grant scams. And so these are perpetrated by scammers who essentially are mimicking different people's Facebook accounts and then reaching out to all their friends. So one really good indicator of if you might be involved or one of your friends might be involved in a government grant scam is if you receive a friend request from someone who you're already friends with on Facebook. This might mean that their Facebook account is being mimicked and someone might be using their likeness to then reach out to all of their friends to then say, you know, I got a great opportunity. A government entity is going to give me a grant for $50,000. All I have to do is pay $2,000 or $3,000 in taxes to receive it. And so it's that friend telling you who, you know, a friend or family member who you think you know, but is just actually the scammer posing as them as in this type of a scam attempt. So you really have to watch out for any type of communication that sounds too good to be true, because these government grant scams are exploding. We're talking the 10 or 20 people every day on the helpline who are being victimized by this type of a scam.
Right. You know, you said something that we use in all of our presentations. If it sounds too good to be true,
it definitely is, yeah, and that's such an important thing to remember. You know, whether you're on Facebook or it's someone at your door or it's someone on the phone, that gut feeling about if it seems too good to be true, it probably has to be. I'll say that one other really common scam that we're seeing bubble up, especially during the pandemic, are romance scams. And romance scams are devastating to deal with, and you don't have to be on Match.com or other dating websites to get involved in a romance scam. A lot of them are starting up on Facebook. So if someone starts talking to you and it sounds, again, too good to be true, in that situation, it's often someone posing as someone who lives overseas, or someone working on an oil rig, or someone in the military, or someone on a mission, and they're coming back soon, but they're just, you know, really think you're the greatest and start asking for money. That's a really important sign of a romance scam, and it's a good time to disengage that person and report them to Facebook.
okay. Is there anything else you can share with us about this really important issue, Mark?
Yeah, one other, you know, just again, I would say really important just to know that this occurred. So it could be, you know, this data breach occurred, so it could mean an escalation of phishing attempts, you know, coming to your email and phone number. I would say please take that extra step to do the privacy checkup if you ever have. And one other scam that I'd love to mention are celebrity imposter scams. There's lots of folks who are impostoring celebrities on Facebook and on Instagram and other social media sites. So, you know, if for instance, and it's happening a lot, I'm a big country music fan, it's happening a lot with country music artists. For one we heard about recently, Toby Keith, someone thought they were talking to Toby Keith on Facebook, and then they sent them money for what they thought was their charity. It wasn't. And so if you start getting communications from someone who says they're a celebrity on Facebook, consider it a scam.
Great. Well, thank you, Mark. We appreciate you sharing all that really important information.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Sure. You know, at AARP, we couldn't do things without our volunteers, and we want to thank them. And today, I'm going to bring on one of our volunteers. This is Cheryl Henderson, and Cheryl is our state fraud lead. Cheryl also answers the Fraud Watch hotline that you see the number down there. So Cheryl, tell us, have you gotten any calls on the hotline about this issue about Facebook scams?
It's interesting that he talked about the celebrity. There is a person who has been sending money to Drake, thousands of dollars. Matter of fact, she's convinced that she's seen his driver's license. She's convinced that they have a personal connection. So not only is she sending money, but she's also going to the bank, taking out money, and then going and buying Bitcoins and sending Bitcoins. Well,
Okay.
Celebrities are not just going to reach out to individuals that they don't know and ask for money. And you have to do your due diligence. You have to check out and go and make sure that what you're doing is correct. With the Facebook, there's a lot of cloning with Facebook. So they will create a secondary account in Facebook And people will say, if do not take a second friend book request from me because I have not created a second account. Then there are 4 indicators that you need to think about that were brought to us when we get together as a group for our fraud fighters to help with the helpline. And one is urgency. If there's a sense of urgency in the message to you from Messenger or Facebook or any of the social medias, you know that's one indicator that that's fraud. If there's spelling and grammar errors, that's also an indicator that's fraud.
Mm-hmm.
If you have something that is supposedly coming from someone in authority, say the FBI, the CIA, or something like that, that is an indicator that that's a fraud, because these people don't do business through Facebook or any kind of social media. They will knock on your door, or they will have the police come to your house. Just be very careful with that. The other one would be just a generic salutation. Dear Amazon customer, or dear Facebook reader, just because anybody who's contacting you to say something has happened, they will know your name. People will also call up and ask you to verify the information. If someone is contacting you, they already have your information. You don't need to verify. And the best thing to do is not engage. You hang up the phone, you make the contact to Amazon yourself. Amazon they will do things through, everything they do is usually on the internet. They're not making calls. So you just have to do your due diligence. And with the calls that are coming in with people saying about the grants, if your aunt gives you a Facebook message that says she had a grant, and she will generally call you. If you get a Facebook message from a friend or anyone in your account, call them first, because this is an indicator that it is not correct. Anybody has good news to share, they're going to get money, they're going to call you up. They're not going to send you a text message. So those are some of the things that we're dealing with on the hotline, among others.
Great. Okay. Again, thank you, Cheryl. Thank you for all you do, and appreciate you being here today. Again, we couldn't do it without volunteers, so we want to thank them for that. We'll be back not next Friday, but 2 weeks from today with another Fraud Watch Friday. And what I'm going to end with are some of the activities we have upcoming. Thank you for joining our call today, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.